us are honored to be here. It is an event tonight to celebrate the senior players. I get the sense that young players have said, you know what, in my later years, I'm going to be so proud to say I played with Mia Hamm, Julie Foudy, Christine Lilly, Brandy Chastain, and Joy Fawcett.
Let's go, USA! Let's go!
What they've done over a 17, 18-year period is remarkable. It's unprecedented. It is a dynasty. It's a remarkable way to finish our year, and we hope it ends in an unbelievable way.
They transformed a sport. They found opportunity where there was none, and created a new nation of fans. Their legacy lives on in a generation of young girls who take the soccer field as if it were their birthright. The revolution they caused is not even 2 decades old, but to some, it feels as if it happened a lifetime ago.
We, the 5 of us, have been together 17 years. And that's scary because that means we're very old.
I think 17 plus, maybe.
Yeah, almost 18 actually.
I can hardly believe it's been 17 years looking how young you guys look.
Oh.
No, seriously.
Look at,
I mean, look at this.
that's pretty good.
That's probably 17 years.
You were probably
more.
16.
Yeah.
No, I was 15.
You had
Yeah.
little chicken legs. You were a
That's
little
when I
scrawny
was
kid.
fast.
Maybe because the
Even
hair
though that hair, yeah. There are some things that should never be repeated, and I think all of the 80s.
Women have always carved out their own place in sports. One by one, they've made their mark as champions. From Babe to Billy, and the countless in between. But women striving for a career in team sports have had little opportunity and few heroes.
My idols and my role models were 300-pound football players and 8-foot-tall basketball players. And I don't remember ever having a woman that I pointed to and said, yeah, that's who I'm going to be one day.
And when I was growing up, there wasn't a whole lot of girls around me, but I never really thought about it because I was doing some things I loved.
I wanted to be a football player, to be honest with you, because, you know, my father liked to watch football on the weekends. It just was around, and so I thought, okay, I'll be a Pittsburgh Steeler, you know?
By the mid-'80s, there was a glimmer of hope for women who wanted to play team sports. And it came with the formation of a national soccer team. In its second season of play, the team found itself a true believer. Anson Dorrance had coached the celebrated women's program at North Carolina. In taking over the national team, he had a radical plan for turning it into a world champion. He would mine America's soccer fields for teenage prodigies.
Great soccer!
I flew down to the North Texas State tryouts. I sat down in these metal bleachers on one side of the field and just prepared to watch the team kick off. And the team kicked off, and all of a sudden someone played the ball to the right, and I saw this skinny little brunette move like she had been shot out of a cannon. I got up immediately. I didn't need to see anymore. And I was thinking, oh my gosh.
I know he said some things to my coach with regards to, you know, my potential, and from there, everything happened so fast. You know, my head's spinning. I have to tell my parents that they're gonna have to find some more money to send me so I can go on a trip, and you know, it was a whirlwind.
Where does Julie Foudy go from here?
You know, people kept asking, how do you feel? Is it getting to be routine and all that? I was 16. Christine Lilly was 16. Mia Hamm was 15. She was just a baby. And Joy Fawcett, who was 19.
I didn't even know there was a women's national team until I got there. I didn't know any of the other players. I only knew, I knew Julie because she was from the West. But other than that, I hadn't heard about any of them or knew about any of them. And I just remember being scared to death about being there at all.
I was very shy and quiet back in the day. I've just met Mia there, so I knew her briefly. And this man walks by and Mia says, hello. And he says hi, and I'm like, who's that? And she's like, that's Anson. I did not even know who Anson Dorrance was at the time, and he was the coach. So that's how oblivious I was to everything. And I think a lot of us didn't know really what was going on at the time.
Hi, this is Brandi Chastain, and we're here at Harder Stadium in Santa Barbara after a win over cut, Jeff, sorry.
They were just little kids. And not that I was this old, mature athlete, but they were just so obviously younger. And they were intimidated, I think, a bit. Lily was like, didn't talk at all. I think Mia was the most intimidated out of all of them.
It definitely was intimidating. I mean, you have players not only that are older and more mature, but just have more experience than you do. They didn't bow down to anyone, especially some, 15, 16-year-old kids.
On some level, we were afraid to talk. Just, I'm new, you're new, this is all new. I know I was feeling that.
I decided really early that, I think this group's going to be our future. So in a move that was actually very unpopular at the time, we cut a lot of these outstanding senior veteran players.
I think Anson ruffled a lot of feathers. And he didn't care if they were 16 or 17 years old, because they had this physical presence. And he detected very quickly that they also had an incredible desire to succeed and to excel. And they were willing to work hard and sweat and sacrifice and suffer to get to the top.
We were aware there was a lot of controversy at the national levels administration. They actually challenged Anson. They said, basically, your job's on the line. If your team doesn't perform, then, he would be gone. That was the first time I looked at, I guess, myself and my team as the U.S. team and saying, I want to be a member of the U.S. team. I am a member. How dare you say who should be on my team?
On the shoestring budget U.S. Soccer relegated to its new operation, Anson's team played for no money. The players got by on third-class travel, cheap motels, bad food, and $10 a day meal money.
We were, the redheaded stepchild team. We were lucky if we had anything and be happy for it. And then the men's team was what was going to get U.S. Soccer and this country a name. And so they got all the money and the respect. And that's just how it was.
We'd be happy in the late 80s, if we had 1,000 people in the stands, and those were all immediate family, friends, There was no one outside our circle that was really coming to games. They just didn't know anything about the team.
My mom used to bring a megaphone to my games. There's like 12 people standing on the sidelines. I'm like, Mom, you don't need the megaphone. She was a cheerleader in high school. I can hear you. She goes, oh no, but it's so fun, it's great. And I'm like, okay, fine.
That was all we knew, really. We were playing a game that we truly enjoyed and loved, and we were playing it with people that we cared so much about. So, we didn't care where we went, as long as we were together and playing soccer.
In 1991, the International Soccer Federation, FIFA, which governed the Men's World Cup, held the first ever tournament for women and invited 12 nations to compete.
It's the FIFA Women's World Championship Final for the M&M's Cup.
I think it was called the M&M World Championships. FIFA didn't feel confident that we were going to put on a good enough show to be a FIFA-sanctioned World Cup. So it was sort of, we'll call it this. If it works out good, you guys can be the FIFA World Cup the next time around.
The event wasn't expected to be a big draw. Only someone forgot to tell the tournament hosts.
Once we arrived in China, the whole country was waiting for this tournament, and they were excited about this, or curious about it. Let's see if these women can play, kind of thing. It It was a big deal. It was a really big deal, and that stunned me. I was like, wow, what are all these people doing here?
The U.S. women steamrolled their way through the tournament, winning 5 straight matches. And their high-scoring, high-pressure style wowed the locals.
And here we go, let's play.
That was the first time anyone was just clamoring to get our autographs. The Chinese people contributed to an enormous amount to our sense of achievement and our sense of this is a world event.
Never has an American team played for a world championship before. Not men's, not women's, not youth, not anything. And there is the world's greatest soccer player greeting these young women from across the United States who are about to play the biggest game of their lives.
A sellout crowd of 65,000 saw the U.S. face off against the powerhouse squad from Norway. In their showdown for world supremacy, the two teams launched a rivalry that would dominate the sport for the next decade.
Relax, two touch, relax.
In the closing minutes of the game, Higgins serves this ball forward, and Michelle Akers read this thing and jumped onto it.
Michelle with a brave run upfield. Here's Akers, no! With a chance, open net, she scores!
And then the longest, 2 minutes of my life is what happened next, because now I'm thinking, oh my gosh, we could win this thing, we could win this thing.
We wait simply for the whistle, and that is it! And the United States has finally won a world championship in soccer!
Meant everything for us to win that first tournament. I mean, this is America winning the world's game.
We were all lulled into this feeling of, it's gonna be like this when we get home. You know, we're gonna change soccer in America. People are now gonna pay attention.
Going to the U.S. Pizza, real food.
Flying home took 52 hours because we had to go the cheapest way all around the globe and drop off every team.
We landed JFK, not an obscure airport. And we're expecting, somebody to be there to meet us. And there actually were. There was 3 people there. That was our welcoming committee. It's this emptiness as everybody just walks off to their own gates to connect to their own cities.
I could care less how many people were at the airport. And it didn't diminish it. I'm not validated by how many people are in the stands or how many people show up at the airport for us. It was a world championship.
Special day for U.S. Soccer. We are unveiling the stars here on the U.S. Soccer Star Plaza for our 3 retiring legends.
Is this a difficult moment for you? What do you think's the biggest legacy you ladies will leave behind? There seems to be a bit of sadness, of course, saying goodbye to the game.
Hey, Maddie Boo, look at you. I feel good about my contribution, and I think my body needs a rest, and this is just the right time.
All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3. Very nice. Good. That way.
After winning the '91 World Cup, a number of U.S. players returned to college, where they awaited their team's fate.
There was no training, there was no schedule, there was no future. Nobody talked about what's next.
Well, the Federation at the time didn't have a lot of money, and in fact, they really had to push to keep the women's program going because there was a strong sentiment that we can just disband this, and then if there's another world championship, we'll start up again. So they could have just dropped off the face of the earth.
A lot of these players just out of college were like, I gotta get a real job. I can't do this soccer bit anymore. It was considered something like a hobby.
For others, the decision to leave was taken out of their hands.
Brandy, show! Someone show! Show! Show!
In 91, I was 23. Maybe that was old for our team at the time. But I never said I wanted to retire.
I didn't really feel like she had the discipline off the field to continue to improve as a player, because back in those days, believe it or not, fitness was an issue for her.
I got an opportunity asking if I wanted to play in Japan. I briefly talked to Anson about, hey, I have this opportunity. And I remember his feedback being, well, you're not going to get any better going there. And I thought, well, I'm not playing with you. You know, I went to Japan with an open mind about where I was going in my soccer career, but always having, I think, this in the back of my head, I want to be on that national team again.
But for another player, staying on the team presented difficult choices.
I don't know, I just had it set in my head that I wanted a lot of kids and I didn't want to wait forever.
If that meant that she could no longer play on the national team, so be it. You know, she was going to make her choice. Shortly after she had given birth, we just happened to be training in the area. I invited her out to practice. I said, Joy, why don't you come by? You know, bring the baby. We'd all love to see the baby. And, you know, all your teammates would love to see you.
Anson's like, oh, you look fine. Come out and practice. Come and jump in and join us.
Joy, how do you feel?
Good, out of shape.
That's all right. You don't feel like you're tearing anything, do you?
And slowly but surely, we roped her in to practice. And by the end of the week, she was training full-time with us, and she hadn't lost a thing.
Joy, good deception.
Probably in his own way, Anson felt like he was tricking me into come back. But I just remember not wanting to say no because I really wanted to be back.
She competed in an inter-squad scrimmage. This is 3 weeks after she gave birth. And I'm sure she felt that if she didn't do this, she might lose her place on the team. Amazing player.
I went to Anson and I talked to him about it and said, is it okay if I bring the baby on the road with me? He's like, well, I know I won't be able to talk you out of it. So he goes, that's fine. And I was breastfeeding, so that was kind of my excuse to bring her along, is that I got to breastfeed her, so she has to be with me.
Good one.
Remarkably enough, Joy's career would include 3 such comebacks.
People were always like, I gotta retire because I'm gonna have kids. It was never even thought of to combine the two until you did it. And you never hesitated, it seemed. It was
No,
like...
I never thought twice about, oh, I couldn't do both.
Right.
E.T., phone home. She's taking her first steps.
You know, one of the things you were so nervous about was your kids coming in and changing our environment. But that's all they did, was change it for the better. It's like when you would get nervous and be like, don't bother them. We're like, no, bother me. Because
Well, that was a big concern in the beginning. I was like, I don't want them
want that
to
attention.
impose on your game, and you still got to do well in your games.
You remember when, was it Carly or Maddie, Peter Pans? And you said, what happened? Carly. You go,
on the plane.
Yeah, you go, because she had been potty trained for a while, and you're like, Carly, what happened? She goes, Mom, I just lost my focus. Yeah. And Joy goes, this is how you know your kid has sat through too many meetings.
In 1995, I covered the Women's World Cup in Sweden, and at the time there were only a handful of U.S. reporters. It was a beautiful country and it was a great event, but nobody cared.
Nonetheless, the U.S. remained as dedicated as ever. Playing under Tony DeCicco, who had taken the coaching reins from Anson Dorrance, the Americans prepared to defend their title, but an indispensable Michelle Akers faced a new opponent and was unsure of her playing status.
Well, it was this, monumental journey and struggle to make it to the '95 World Cup anyway, for me. I mean, I didn't I said, there's no way I can do it. I can't make it. When I came home from 91, I just couldn't quite, get up in the morning. And I was like tired. And I would go to start training. I'd be putting on my shoes going, God, I'm exhausted.
Michelle Akers suffered from chronic fatigue syndrome. And this is a condition that just totally zaps your energy. You break out in sweat and you feel nauseous and you don't have energy to do the simplest daily tasks.
So that was the final diagnosis, the chronic fatigue. I said, well, give me something for it. What do I do? He's like, no, there's nothing to do. You have to figure it out on your own. You just need to rest. Yeah. And to me, that answer wasn't satisfactory. That's when we really started working as a team to keep me on the field. I snacked at halftime. I had to have coffee to keep my blood pressure up, IV bags, and if I made it a whole game, it was a huge victory.
Contain him now, contain him.
I've had people come up to me and say, how does she run around on a soccer field? You got to know Michelle Akers.
I made it. I got there to the World Cup, and we played China in the first game, and within 5 minutes, they had a corner kick.
On the corner, they're looking like they may go short. Instead, she drives it far side, headed away, and going down, Michelle Akers.
I went up to win it, and the girl just speared me in the back of the head. In midair, I was out like a light. So that was devastating.
Well, Michelle Akers is as tough as they come, and she takes more hits than anyone.
We had Michelle go down in the first game, and I think our team responded extremely well after we lost her. People stepped up.
Lily, left footer over the wall. Oh, rebound, score, Melbourne! Tiffany Melbourne scores, it's 2-0 U.S.
By winning 3 and tying 1, the women advanced to the semifinals. There they faced the very team Michelle Akers had helped to defeat in the '91 World Cup, their arch rivals from Norway, a team the U.S. players had strong opinions about.
They were just a team that we hated, and that's what made it such a great rival, because I think they hated us as well.
We called them the Viking bitches.
Yeah, the Viking bitches, we did call them that.
They were, 6-footers, tall, athletic, strong, hard.
Everyone from the defenders, the goalie, to the attacking players were just tall, and they were the Vikings. Of course, we added bitches to it because you have to have that fire and competitiveness in it.
Michelle Akers wasn't about to miss the grudge match, so despite a concussion and a banged-up knee, she found herself back on the field.
So as soon as she steps on the field, all of us said, oh, you're back. Here, carry us again.
Here's Akers on the right side, sending it long, and it's right at Nordby. Long ball, Hagarisa, what a settling touch, played it across and scurry. Right now, that's the save of the game, right there.
I was really nervous that morning, and I was still very new to the team. I think a lot of people realized that whoever would win the game against USA Norway would probably go on to win a championship. And they had a corner kick.
From the corner, it's an in-swinger, headed off the post and in. Norway has scored the game's first goal.
And I missed it by an inch. That goal was in my mind every day of my life.
Norway leads 1-0.
We figured if we could tie, we'd win. We did what I call threw the kitchen sink at them.
Struck long by Venturini, tipped over the bar.
Our expectations were Michelle was going to lead us to victory. And Michelle, the warrior that she is, comes in and tries to play. And she couldn't do it. When she physically couldn't do it, we were scrambling.
Fawcett drills it, off the crossbar again. Rebound, it's loose in the box.
They hit the post, they hit the crossbar, they shot just narrowly wide.
This might be the last crack for the United States.
They were all over Norway. All they couldn't do was score the goal. Finally, the final whistle blew. It was just silence. It was just tears, I didn't know if we'd even be able to speak to the players. They were just so devastated by the loss.
To see them celebrate afterwards, they did this Norwegian train where they would like train around the entire field. You had just lost one of the biggest tournaments basically of your life, didn't even get to the final, and here you see your opponent basically rubbing it in like that. I mean, it made your stomach turn.
Took every ounce of willpower for me not to go over there and just knock their heads off.
The player's agony was shared by a former teammate who watched helplessly a continent away.
I remember it being very, very difficult watching that game because, you know, those were my best friends. There was nothing I could do about it. And I think I had decided at that moment that I was going to make my way, I would find my way back to this team one way or another.